You heard the scripture that says, "He renews your youth like the eagle." Why? A long time ago, I heard a story of an eagle, and I'll share it to the best of my ability. I heard this story, and I thought it was pretty cool. There once was an eagle, and this eagle, he was once strong. His feathers were full. He could soar very high, very far. His beak was amazing, a very strong beak. This guy was a survivor. By the time this eagle lived to be 40 years old, things had changed. His beak, which was once bright gold and solid, was becoming dull and flimsy. His feathers had grown so much, now that he was packed with all these feathers, where it was becoming difficult to fly. And his strength was not being renewed. It seemed like his strength was starting to diminish. So, the eagle found himself at a place, what you might call crossroads. He had a big decision to make. He couldn't fly so well anymore. He couldn't hunt so well anymore. So what could he do to renew his youth? He needed to find a way to renew his youth because his beak was flimsy and his feathers were too packed. He needed new feathers. He needed a new beak. What could he do? Well, he finds himself in a valley because he can't fly very high anymore. So he's in this valley, but in this valley, he's vulnerable to being prey, P-R-E-Y, the food of a predator. And he's not supposed to be the food of a predator. So what he does is he comes to this place where he's in this valley, and right before him stands a very, very high mountain. His goal, if he wants to survive, if he wants to continue on, his goal is to reach the top of this mountain, the peak of the mountain. Because on the peak of the mountain, there happens to be a very sharp rock at the very top of this mountain. So what this eagle does is he gives it everything that he's got. And he makes attempt after attempt after attempt. And he finally, after struggling, laboring to get to that high peak of that mountain, he finally does it. And he collapses with exhaustion. And now he has no other choice but to rest. This eagle is now exhausted. So the eagle, when he finally catches his breath, now things got to get done. First of all, he has to figure a way how to get rid of all these feathers that are packed on him, because there's just too many. He needs them to be renewed. He needs his youth to be renewed. So what does he do? Well, that flimsy beak of his isn't going to be able to pull off these feathers. So what he has to do is he has to get rid of this flimsy beak. So there he is. He's standing at the very peak of this sharp rock, and he starts to smack his beak against the peak of this rock. And he chips away at his old beak, and he's smacking it, and it's chipping away, and it's chipping away, and it's chipping away, breaking apart. A painful process that he has to go through. It's laborious, it's painful, it's a hardship. But through this hardship, what he's trying to do is build a strong ship. So what does he do? He finally breaks this old beak apart. And what happens is now he has to wait. So this eagle has to be patient because he has to wait until he grows a new beak. But now when he does, this beak is stronger than it ever was. It's brighter gold than it ever was. And now he can remove all of these feathers, these old feathers. But he has to pick them off of himself, which is another painful process. And when he's finished with that, now he's a bald eagle, quite literally. And now he has to sit and wait for these feathers to grow back. And this eagle, when he finally gets his new feathers and his new beak, his strength has been renewed, and he flies off once again, the mighty hunter that he once was. And he goes on to live with his youth being renewed.